The next topic we're going to cover is the American Revolution. It began in Boston with a lot of activities from West Dedham in it. First of all, at that time, 1765, British needed money. They just fought some wars, so they started to tax us in the colonies. And we got very upset that we were getting taxed without representation. They would want our money, but we didn't have any form of government. We could have government ourselves, but we couldn't stop the taxing. So people got very upset. So in 1774, don't forget it's 1868, so this is a little more than 100 years, we had a Continental Congress, and all 13 states sent people there to begin to talk about what can we do as a group. And we sent John Adams and Sam Adams, Ben Franklin, who had been originally from Boston, he's now from Philadelphia, John Hancock. They're the ones who signed that Declaration of Independence later. But they're down there in the Continental Congress. We have a group in Boston that wanted to become independent of England. At that time, a third of the people wanted to be independent, have our own country. 1/3 wanted to stay with England, and 1/3 didn't care. They just wanted to farm and be left alone. But a group called the Sons of Liberty got started. They wanted to organize to start a revolution, change us so we could become independent. They came out to West Dedham. They went to farmers and said, would you join us if we need to fight? We want to find out who's willing to fight. And if you're willing to fight, you became what's called a minute man. You needed, if they came in and asked for help in 1 minute, you had to get on your horse and your gun and go. They were a farming army. The British were upset. A bunch of our people went down to Boston Harbor, went to a British ship and dumped all the tea in the ship into the harbor because we were being taxed on tea. The British sent troops over, said, no, Boston, you're no longer run your own government, we're going to run it. So they were called in, they called them the Redcoats. They're very leery of these Sons of Liberty. They heard the Sons of Liberty had guns and things out in Concord, so they decided they're going to march out to Concord and capture all of the guns and powder we had. So the word got out. We've heard about this thing. How are the British going to get out to Concord? Are they going to come down the isthmus? Boston was just like a little island of its own at one place, or did they walk across the harbor? The famous poem was written about the midnight ride of Paul Revere. Paul was over in Cambridge with his horse. He's looking at the tower at the north end. If there's one candle up there, one if by land, two if by sea. One, that meant they're going to march down that one land, take them a lot of time across the harbor. They went by sea. He took off, notifying all the Minutemen. They came to West Dedham, said, the British are marching out, we need you. 69 men from West Dedham, Norwood, marched off to Concord to challenge the British. The British marched in. They shot some people in Lexington. They went into Concord, and our Sons of Liberty were there fighting them. The British lost a lot of troops marching back to Boston and were very upset. All of our troops went over to Bunker Hill, Breed's Hill, a big hill looking over Boston. The British decided we're going to go up that hill and fight them. They did that days later. 5 charges up the hill. They finally forced the people off the hill. But in the process, 1,000 British soldiers were killed or wounded. They took this revolution very seriously. It wasn't just a bunch of farmers, but that was the beginning of the American Revolution. And we're going to talk later about a famous Westwood 15-year-old boy who was involved in that battle of Bunker Hill. So that's just a brief introduction. We will talk later about Robert Steele from Westwood, who was at Bunker Hill. The British considered it a victory, but they lost so many soldiers, they just decided this is going to be a long, drawn-out battle for these people who want to have independence. And that's right after that is when our founding fathers in Philadelphia wrote the Declaration of Independence, and war was on. Thank you. We're now going to turn our attention to math. Thank you.